Mike, the fight season gets underway in earnest this month, at the end of the month, and of course we're talking about the Junior Farr, Joseph Parker fight. Your read on that?
Oh, my read on it's an interesting fight. Duco's again putting together a fight where you've got the two highest ranked heavyweights in the country, and that's really fascinating. It's really interesting. Bit difficult for me because obviously Junior and Joe are actually mates, and obviously Junior's coached and trains out of CKB, so that's where the home in the heartland is. Look, it's an interesting fight between two guys who are ranked, I think, number 3 and number 6 respectively in the WBO. So that is a worthwhile fight in anyone's language. And will determine possibly who goes on to challenge for the WBO title. So there's a lot on the line. Joseph Parker obviously will come in as a favourite. He will be a guy he's got the better resume to this point in his career. But there's always the backdrop of Junior's victories rather, in 2 out of 4 fights as amateurs, which means he has the physical attributes to make it difficult for Joe. And obviously we haven't seen the level that he can attain yet. He's still be working his way up. So there's a lot of fascinating questions to be answered in this fight.
I know you've been critical at times of the press in New Zealand, what they don't give to the fight game. Do you think it's been a little bit quiet press-wise leading into this fight?
Look, I'm sure that'll ramp up over the next couple of weeks. It's been reasonably average, but again, you need to have a story to sell, and you need to, if you're someone in media management, so say for Duco, you also need to get your powder dry for when it's important. Spark Arena, I think they can fit around 10,000 people in there, and obviously it's pay-per-view driven, and a lot of those pay-per-view choices are made, in the final week of. So that's when I think you'll see a real ramping up of the media and of the stories. What's going to be interesting though is, Joe and Junior aren't particularly controversial characters. They're not guys who really tend to talk it up. So what I would look for is I'd look for Kevin Barry, probably doing his usual thing there'll be something about the gloves. There'll be, he'll be stirring the pot, and I think Eugene's highly likely to be stirring the pot as well, which is what you'd expect when you've got two pretty wholesome, South Auckland Polynesian boys who went to the same church as they were growing up. It's not in their nature to talk it up. So I think controversy rather, will come from management.
Well, we move on to the UFC, and you've always been a big part of the Israel camp. And this time around, a step up in weight. What's your take on that?
Interesting fight. Blachowicz I think he's naturally left-handed. His left hook and his left kick are his best punches. He's durable. He's patient. He's primarily a counter fighter, although he does blitz in on occasion. He probably doesn't have the speed of Israel, but he's a very strong man. He's experienced, and he has power. He has fight-changing power, and we've seen that demonstrated on a couple of occasions, most recently against Edwards and Reyes. So he is a guy who is very, very dangerous. And the keys there are what happens when Israel feels not just the power, but the strength of the man inside the clinch. Is Blachowicz going to go for the takedown? Because he has got a very, very good top game, and he's a BJJ black belt. So there's a lot of interesting machinations in that fight. I expect it to stay standing, but don't be surprised if Blachowicz tries to change it up a little bit. And that also will open up potentially, if he starts going for takedowns, open up for him to come upstairs and punch by dropping the hands to defend the takedown. So interesting fight. Is the favourite? Obviously we're backing Israel to win, but there's a lot of challenges to overcome in that, and if we told you, we'd have to kill you. If we let you know all of what those challenges are. But he's a guy who presents a lot of dangers.
Where would you rate him as in the opponents as far as he's faced already? Do you put him at number one, or?
Well, no one's more important than the fighter you've got next. It doesn't matter who you've got. No one is more important. And the fact that he's going up in weight to challenge a guy who's a naturally bigger man makes it a different challenge. There's no point in rating them because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Everyone you are fighting at this level is a world beater. And Blachowicz has earned his title shot. He is a UFC champion. So, that's what we're facing. We're facing the light heavyweight champion of the world. And we have to account for that, work out a plan and overcome.
Great answer. Also good to see on the card we've got Carlos having his first UFC fight. He's a bit of an excitement machine.
Well, yeah, he's got great power. He's got what he actually has is massive upside in terms of potential. He's raw. He's unpolished. He's far from the finished product, and this is a massive opportunity for him. Obviously, he also needs to fast track. We need to continue his upskilling at a rate of knots. He's got a very tall southpaw opponent who has a really, really long reach. So that presents some difficulties. Of course, there's a lot of body for him to hit. There's a lot of leg for him to hit. And Carlos punches with real authority. He's fought guys who've been really tall before. I know he fought a Russian who was either 6'9" or 6'10". So he's not completely out of his element, and that guy was also a southpaw. So look, Carlos has some ability to be a big game player, and this is an opportunity. We'll just get him through that, continue to work, and obviously with me being a southpaw, I've got a few tricks up our sleeves that we'll look to try and exploit there.
And Kai, who's just on the verge, and he's been so close to having a title fight and then dropped back, and it's another important one for him.
Oh, look, when you're inside the top 10, every fight is an important fight. This isn't boxing where you get two taxi drivers and a dead body to beat up to get your confidence back. His not his last two, but two out of his last three have been against the two Brandons, Royval and Moreno, and obviously Moreno went really well against Figueiredo. In actual fact, I think there's an argument for him winning that fight. And those were close, hard-fought fights for Kai. He is just, a decimal point away from winning those fights. A couple of errors, a couple of changes in terms of skill development, and you see Kai winning. What he has proven in all his fights is that he has that one-punch KO power. Moreno was rocked and dropped. Royval was dropped as well. In actual fact, he landed that Hail Mary spinning back fist, which changed the course of the fight. So he has that. Now we just need to add a few more strings and a few more entrance points to how he applies that and when he applies that. So it's, he's a bull. We've just got to get him through the gate.
Hey, thanks for talking to us. It was a question I meant to ask Eugene. You had any word on Dan, where he is and what part of the world is he on?
Oh, look, he's currently over in Dubai, Arab Emirates, and he'll be enjoying a bit of time sort of convalescing, and probably if I know Dan, because he's intensely competitive, he'll be disappointed quite clearly, but he's also reasonably pragmatic, so he'll be plotting out his next few steps, and look, he's still very much in that title picture, a little bit like Kai, short notice fight against Poirier, where essentially he ran out of a bit of steam, and Poirier was in better condition. Poirier's obviously just knocked out Conor McGregor, so again, decimals of percentage points, and he got clipped. He just got clipped by Chandler, just got caught drifting against the cage, and that can happen with small gloves. So gutting, disappointing, but he's very much in the picture, and look, we expect to see him come back. He is legitimately in that top 5 or 6, and he's earned his right to be there.
Hey, thanks for taking your time out to talk to me, and yeah, really appreciate it.
All good, mate.
Cheers. Hey, thanks,
Easy,
Mike.
mate. No worries.